Tzu Chi hosts a prayer ceremony to comfort and give blessings to Hualien earthquake victims. We learn from some experts the need for several structure and how to examine the buildings. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Margaret Lin. Thank you for joining us. After the massive earthquake in Hualien, Taiwan, more than 200 people have been injured, with more than 800 people being housed in temporary shelters. As many residents still feel frightened, Tzu Chi held a prayer ceremony on the afternoon of February 11th to deliver blessings to them. A local band is giving a performance in their hometown Hualien, conveying their sincere love to this homeland. On the 6th day after the Hualien earthquake, Tzu Chi Foundation held a prayer ceremony. People from different places of Taiwan and other countries have come to Hualien to provide aids.
I can still remember the breakfast we had at 5 in the morning when we returned to the Jingsa abode to report disaster situations. There was only soup left in there. All the Dharma masters in the Jingsa abode were busy delivering hot foods to disaster areas that night.
The songs have brought together thousands of people at the event as everyone sends blessings and supports each other. Master Zhen Yan has also come on site to comfort everyone. Volunteers from the Tzu Chi Performers Association have brought warmth and care to Hualien. As the praying ceremony, they give love to local residents through singing.
I want to bless everyone. We should bravely face and overcome the difficulties to embrace a bright future.
Artist Wan Fan's sister's home is in Hualien, which was also affected by the earthquake. She feels deeply moved as she has received assistance from Tzu Chi volunteers.
There's love and warmth in this world. I wanted to bless everyone with sincere gratitude.
To comfort the residents affected by the Hualien earthquake, Tzu Chi volunteers have mobilized to conduct home visits in the disaster area. For 2 consecutive days, they visited the earthquake victims door to door with consolation letters and gifts, hoping to calm their anxious minds. I almost cried when the earthquake took place. The ceiling collapsed and the bookshelf and closets fell down.
Recalling the earthquake experience, the resident still has fears. She has not sorted through her belongings because she's afraid of aftershocks.
The residents in the disaster areas must be frightened. Therefore, we are conducting home visits today. We hope our love and care can help them release their inner fear.
The volunteers divided into different routes to visit quake victims.
This is the first time I'm so frightened. In the past, the earthquakes were not so severe and therefore we were used to them. We did not expect this earthquake to be so devastating.
There is a letter inside. It is from our master to you. Bless you.
We want to find out if the earthquake has affected their daily life or schooling. If so, we can report it.
Delivering their best wishes, the volunteers have calmed the anxious minds of the affected residents. 5 days after the earthquake struck, Mr. Guo, who runs a barbershop near Marshall Hotel, still lacks water in his shop.
This area has been damaged heavily. Currently, we have electricity, but we lack water.
We go door to door to visit them and ask about whether or not they need our assistance in the aftermath of the earthquake. We are delivering the master's best wishes as well as our care.
After conducting home visits, city volunteers have also planned mid to long-term care projects. They hope they can accompany the residents in Hualien through the tough times.
In order to tear down the tilted buildings after the massive earthquake, Hualien County government has set up the third temporary shelter at Tzu Chi Junior High School to accommodate the residents. Tzu Chi volunteers help to decorate the venue and provide humanitarian care so that all the residents staying in the shelter can feel like home.
Tzu Chi Junior High School will be the third shelter, and Hualien County government invited Tzu Chi to arrange and set up the floor plan.
We're tearing some buildings down, but we worry that we will bother residents nearby because there will be non-stop noises and dust for 5 days. So we arranged the residents near the disaster area here.
Setting up the Jingsi folding beds in the gym, volunteers carefully clean the environment and do disinfection works thoroughly. The stage was turned into a cozy reading area just like the living room at home.
We want to create a cozy and warm area for children or their parents to be able to come here anytime they want.
Many students of Tzu Chi schools also come to help.
If you have a chance to come here at the scene, you can observe with your own eyes to see what they really need and what we can do for them.
We hope that the energy and cheerfulness of these big brothers and sisters can help these children to forget about the horrible experience.
Here is a temporary shelter for local residents at night, as well as a place that gathers love. Near the shelter in Zhonghua Elementary School, this scooter store invites people to use their restrooms when there are no water and electricity.
When I came back, I told my husband that they don't have water there, so my husband went to check and saw that everyone needs to use restrooms. As soon as he came back, he put on this sign.
We have groundwater that we can use and some spring water as well.
Not only the scooter store, but vendors nearby all put in efforts to help to provide people with water and electricity. The compassion and love of people are best shown during the time of disasters.
Tzu Chi volunteers in different countries are holding prayer ceremonies for the Hualien earthquake victims. In the United States, Tzu Chi U.S. headquarters is inviting people to adopt a vegetarian diet to pray for the affected residents. In the community cultivation grounds in Malaysia, people pray for Taiwan every day. In addition, kindergarteners in Taiwan sold handmade rice cakes to fundraise for quake relief.
The DaAi kindergarteners in Xindian have come to deliver New Year wishes and invite everyone to do good deeds. To help quake victims in Hualien, they're selling handmade rice cakes and handicrafts.
We can deliver New Year wishes and help the quake victims in Hualien. The kids decided to sell their products.
In Malaysia, people pray for Hualien's quake victims at Tzu Chi's community cultivation grounds every day.
I rush over here to pray for everyone's safety.
People are also garnering their kind thoughts at Tzu Chi's retreat in Kulai.
I hope they recover emotionally and get back on their feet.
I believe they can get through the tough times if they persevere.
The Tzu Chi affiliates are also holding prayer ceremonies during breaks to pray for people in Hualien. At Tzu Chi Liaison Office in the El Monte of the United States, Tzu Chi U.S. headquarters is promoting vegetarian diet. Also in classes for seniors, people are also offering their prayers for earthquake victims.
We offer our prayers for our fellow countrymen in Hualien and our dear home, Taiwan.
We've got more than 100 people, including local residents, who gather in the Tzu Chi office to pray sincerely.
In the aftermath of the disaster, people in different regions garnered their kind thoughts while praying sincerely for earthquake victims in Taiwan.
The Hualien earthquake destroyed the Marshall Hotel, which was built 40 years ago, along with the Yunmen Cuiti building, which was left with a serious tilt. Many casualties were a result of alterations to these buildings, which saw modification to make a larger interior space by removing columns and walls.
Rescue workers are racing against time. On February 6 at 11:50 p.m., a magnitude 6.0 earthquake struck Hualien. Many people were awakened by violent shaking in the middle of the night.
家里旁边的大楼倒塌了，阿关火锅这一栋大楼倒了，花莲超大地震。
Through the cell phone video shot by netizens, we can hear one person's voice trembling. The building collapsing is a Yunmen Cui building located number 2 Sangshao Street, Hualien City. The building is now at a 45-degree tilt.
We need the central government to use some of the steel from the Suhua Highway expansion project to come and support this building, because these steel supporters are not enough as it is tilting even more. Without more support, it can be even more dangerous for a rescuer inside.
After dawn, the building's tilt was even more striking as the 4th floor appears to be the 1st floor. Not only was the Yunmen Cui building affected, but also the Marshall Hotel, where 3 employees were trapped. This 41-year-old hotel was refurbished 2 years ago, though the 6.0 earthquake destroyed this Hualien landmark. From the map, we can see that near the Hualien train station is Guosheng 6th Street, where this 9th-floor residential building is severely damaged. The collapse of the Yunmen Cui building and the Marshall Hotel collapsed because experts said the 1st floor couldn't resist the earthquake.
During the last Meinong earthquake, the Weiguan building saw a similar problem because it was too top-heavy, putting too much pressure on the weak structures on the lower floors.
Many high-rise buildings have arcades with fewer columns and pillars or support. This structure is dangerous, being a type of mortal wound. For the Marshall Hotel, the lower floors have a higher ceiling, but there's not enough structural support, and when an earthquake strikes, it immediately collapses.
If you raise the ceiling in the 1st floor without adding columns or pillars to the arcade, then you have effectively made the buildings quite soft and bear the weight, sort of like a shrimp without weak legs.
During the 9/21 earthquake in 1999, the Taipei Dongxing building collapsed because the 1st floor couldn't support the weight, leading to the serious disaster. For this building, experts suggest that the lower floors must have seismic reinforcement.
Because of the vertical and horizontal seismic waves, there's little way to control the earthquakes, as it could cause structural tearing and damage.
To avoid similar disasters, the architect reminds people to choose buildings whose length and breadth doesn't differ by too much, as they recommend avoiding U-shaped, T-shaped, or L-shaped buildings.
The basement and the main structure of the house should be more symmetrical to better resist seismic forces. This makes it a little stronger.
Taiwan is near the meeting point of the Eurasian Plate and the Philippine Sea Plate, which leads to frequent earthquakes. According to the Central Weather Bureau's Seismological Center, Taiwan has an average of 3.7 earthquakes of magnitude 6 or more a year. Earthquakes can lead to property damage and loss of life, as it is an important part of building safety. Seismic coefficient is poor for constructions which have been altered or poorly built. Since 2014, the Ministry of the Interior has promoted inspections like the Weiguan building collapse, as these checkups are done to look for buildings which need more reinforcement. However, the average number of buildings which undergo such inspections is just in the single digits.
After the checkup, which is like seeing a doctor, you have a report and need to seek out a treatment plan, which is a part of disaster prevention. But they don't tell you what is the next step. They only say your house is dangerous, which terrifies many people.
When Li Hongyan was Minister of the Interior, he proposed that all disaster-type projects should be planned in great depth. But in the end, nothing was done. 2 years ago, the government also deliberated amendments to the building code to incorporate third-party monitoring systems. That is, buildings of a certain size will be subject to review by the government or relevant building organizations when constructed. However, Li believes revisions of the law won't be passed. After the severe earthquake in Hualien, many have lost their homes and are facing the reality of earthquake damage. It's a good opportunity to remind everyone about the importance of strong buildings and safety to ensure everyone's future survival.
In July, Canada was hit by wildfires. Tzu Chi immediately went to a shelter to provide traditional Chinese medicine services to evacuees. As of 2017, Tzu Chi has been serving in Canada for 25 years.
In the Tzu Chi Foundation, what you do, and you do with purity of heart and with compassion, regardless of religion, culture, or even border.
In Myanmar, monsoon rains caused flooding across large parts of the country. After a flu outbreak, a national health official wrote a letter to Tzu Chi asking for help. Tzu Chi doctors from Taiwan soon went to Myanmar to share their experiences in fighting against epidemics with the local hospitals. In Taiwan and Malaysia, Tzu Chi members also quickly shipped medical supplies to Myanmar. In Vietnam, Tzu Chi volunteers held 3 distributions to give out water tanks to those affected by drought. The water tanks have a special feature. The 3 distributions benefited 500 families lacking clean water for daily use. The volunteers even delivered the water tanks in person. To send the water tanks to an offshore island, the volunteers had to first carry them by boat and unload them one by one before they could finally hand over the water tanks to the local residents. In China, after rainstorms caused severe flooding in Hunan province, Tzu Chi volunteers went to give out portable beds to those affected. In Jilin province, days of heavy rain had also led to flooding. Hearing the news, Tzu Chi volunteers immediately went to help. Over 200 volunteers from other parts of China went to help clean up the homes of those affected. In August, Typhoon Sudalor survivors in Taiwan moved into their new homes. Back in 2015, after the typhoon destroyed a mountain village, the local mayor asked Tzu Chi to rebuild houses for the villagers.
那这个慈祥的背后，智慧的背后，有一颗非常特别细腻的心，在复兴区创下一个重建的典范。
真正的一颗心，真的是谢谢你，感恩。筷子、肥皂啦、毛巾啦，电风扇抹布也买了，我真的。
In the U.S., Hurricanes Harvey and Irma devastated different parts of the country, one after the other. In California, the most destructive wildfires on record burned over 1 million acres of land. Master Zheng Yan advised the U.S. volunteers how to help. Tzu Chi members in Taiwan quickly shipped instant rice and thermal blankets to the U.S. for the local volunteers to give out to those affected.
I really need help. I lost everything.
I cry for joy for the things you do for us. It just gives me such a warm feeling. You're spreading love and hope.
Your help is very timely, it's very appreciative.
And say it in Chinese again? 谢谢。
Tzu Chi members worldwide fundraised for Harvey survivors in the U.S. Learning of the devastation left by Hurricane Harvey, a disabled people's performing group from China donated its proceeds from 2 performances to help those affected. Tzu Chi volunteers also brought aid to a Vietnamese community hit by Harvey.
This is a cash debit card.
I'm very grateful that you came down to try to make some assistance here.
The U.S. helped Taiwan before. Now, Taiwan pays back.
It's reciprocal. We, the United States, helped Taiwan, and now Taiwan is helping the city of Rockport recover.
So we kind of know each other, and hey, we are brothers.
Government officials expressed their gratitude to Tzu Chi.
The City of Wharton, with our appreciation, we're going to dedicate the month of October as Tzu Chi Foundation Month. So we'll honor.
Helping our community to recover after hurricane.
In Haiti, Tzu Chi broke ground for an office in Port-au-Prince. Back in 2010, a major earthquake hit Haiti. Tzu Chi's relief efforts since then have inspired many locals to volunteer with Tzu Chi.
L'organisation Tzu Chi, d'être avec eux tout au long de ma vie, jusqu'à ce que je meure.
Throughout 2017, Tzu Chi volunteers had also left footprints in Central and South America. In Guatemala, they gave out aid to families in need. In Argentina, they distributed stationery to school children. In Chile, they brought care to those affected by wildfires. In Brazil, they held free clinics in out-of-the-way places. In the Dominican Republic, they gave out uniforms and stationery to students. In Honduras, they provided free medical services to the poor and ill. In Venezuela, Tzu Chi's first volunteer, Wu Ranyun, held several aid distributions for the needy and guided the locals to give of themselves. In Sierra Leone, torrential rain-induced floods and mudslides claimed over 1,000 lives. In Taiwan, Tzu Chi members quickly discussed how to help the survivors, including many orphans who have lost their parents to the disaster. A week after the disaster, Tzu Chi members were already in Sierra Leone working with other aid groups to give out hot meals to the locals.
That's during the year-end banquets with Tzu Chi Care recipients in澎湖, Taiwan. We will leave you with these images. Goodbye.